Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing all of my 5-star romance reads. Alright guys, so I recently saw Tori from Live and Have a Life and then Caitlin from The Love Librarian do this video, so I will leave both their channels linked down below. Make sure to check out their content. I love both their channels, so good. They both love romance. Now for my video, this is just going to be my top 5-star reads for romance. I will be doing a separate fantasy romance video with the whole same premise, probably posted next week. Now I'm going to break mine down by month, so I've read 140 books so far this year, and I'm going to tell you my favorite 5-star romance for January, February, etc. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram and Goodreads, both linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about my favorite books so far this year. All right, so starting off with January. Apparently, January was a terrible reading month for me. I didn't rate a single romance book 5 stars. So the highest rated romance book I did read in January was Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. So I actually really enjoy Colleen Hoover's writing. Most of her books make me cry. Trigger warning, this book has I don't think it has actual cheating, but it has emotional cheating. So I rated this 4 instead of 5 stars. But I did really, really enjoy it. I think this is actually part of a series. I haven't read the companion novels, but this is following a girl that in the very beginning of the book, she finds out that her boyfriend is cheating on her with her roommate. So I guess it does actually have real cheating as well. And then she ends up moving in with her neighbor, who is a musician, and it goes from there. Very, very much enjoyed this book. It was just really fun. So I highly recommend. I know this kind of has mixed reviews, but personally, I really loved it. All right, and then things started to look up for me in February. So I rated 3 books, 5 stars. First up, we have Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. So this is probably my favorite Pam Godwin novel. It's between this and Sea of Ruin. But this is student-teacher, age gap. We're following Ivory, and she has a terrible home life. And she has this scholarship to a musical school, and she plays the piano. And she ends up getting a new piano teacher in the beginning of the school year, and they form a relationship. This is super angsty. We have BDSM, we have Possessive Hero, and it's just glorious. I absolutely adore this book. So then after that, I read my first ever Mariana Zapata book. So this is All Roads Lead Here, and this is following a girl that moves back to her hometown, trying to find herself after a divorce from her husband of 15 years. And she gets an Airbnb, and the owner of the Airbnb is this grumpy guy, and they end up forming a relationship. The slowest of slow burns, but so worth it. This book it's great. Really, really enjoyed it. And then last up, I discovered Bad Saint. So this is Captor Captive. It's by Monica James. It's the first in a series. I think I binged the entire series in a weekend. And it's following this girl that ends up being kidnapped on her honeymoon. And then she's being sold to this mob boss. But while she's on the boat to, I think it's Russia, the boat ends up capsizing. And then she gets stuck on a deserted island with one of her captors. And it's really fun. So highly recommend. If you love Captor Captive, this is for you. And then in March, I read a lot of Mariana Zapata books. So first up, I rated 5 stars to The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, which is a sports romance, football, enemies to lovers. And then From Lukov with Love, which is ice skating, enemies to lovers. And then Kulti, which is age gap soccer and kind of enemies to lovers, but all of them 5 stars, super slow burn, but so good. And then I also went down a Giana Darling rabbit hole. So I read the entire Fallen MC series by Giana Darling. So this is a motorcycle club series, and each book is a different person from the motorcycle club, and they all have different tropes. So I did an entire spoiler-free series review of this series. I will leave linked in the cards and in the description. But I love this, specifically the 2nd book and the 5th book, Inked in Lies. So good. So definitely check those out. But yeah, those were my favorite reads for March. Okay, April is kind of all over the place. I have 4 5-star reads, and they're all very different. So first up, we have Sweet Dandelion, and this is by Micalea Smeltzer. So I had just read The Confidence of Wildflowers, and I wanted to check out more of her work. And this is age gap, guidance counselor student, and it's great. So it's following this girl that ends up transferring to a new school after a very tragic event that happens, and she's moving in with her older brother, and they're just trying to figure out life. And then she has to see the guidance counselor, I think almost every day at school, and her and the guidance counselor end up forming a relationship. So I'm normally kind of leery about student teacher because I do work in CST in education, but I really like this. I loved that we got to see this relationship spanning a long time. So this is really slow burn. I feel like most student teacher romances are not. But yeah, highly recommend if you want a good student teacher book. And then I read Praise by Sara Cate. So this is the first book in the Salacious Players Club, and I read this, I think, when it first came out, and I loved it. I still have to read the other two in the series. So this is age gap, praise kink. This guy and his friends decide they're going to start this club for people with different kinks, so they're like not judged. And we're following the main character, I think his name's Emerson, and he ends up dating his son's ex-girlfriend. Well, his son's ex-girlfriend ends up going into his office to get money, but he mistakes her as his new submissive, and then they start a relationship, and it's really fun, so highly recommend. And then I read The Confidence of Wildflowers by Micalea Smeltzer. Apparently this was my month of age gaps. So this is also age gap. They're in Salem, and Salem is this girl that is about to graduate high school. She's been in the same relationship with a guy for a very long time, but she also doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She's been working for her mom in her mom's shop and just doesn't know what she's going to do after she graduates. And then Thayer moves in next door, and he is this single father, and a lot happens. I love this. I like this one better than the second book, The Resurrection of Wildflowers, but both books, this duology is just, it's great. If you like age gap romance, I think you will love this. Check trigger warnings. There's something very tragic that happens in this book, and there's also cheating, so you might not be a fan of that, but highly recommend. I really loved it. And then last up, I read Things We Never Got Over. I actually listened to this via audio, and I had no idea how long this book was. This is very much like a rom-com, and the pacing in this is just really good. Like, I listened to this in one sitting, like I said, having no idea how long it was. But this is following a girl that ends up leaving her wedding and trying to find her estranged sister, and when she gets to the town her sister lives in, she finds out that she's actually an aunt. So she has to raise her niece and try to figure out where her sister is, and it's just fun. It's a really good time. A lot of people are talking about this book right now, and highly enjoyable, definitely recommend. And May was an amazing reading month for me. So I rated 5 books, 5 stars, and they're all very different. So first up we have Violent Delights, and this is by Jessica Hawkins. This is the first book in the White Monarch series, which is like a mafia Spanish cartel type series. And it's following this girl whose best friend is Diego, who works for her father in the Spanish cartel. And they've grown up together. And then one day, Diego's brother, who our main character accused of murder when she was a child, shows back up. And it's like the relationship between the three of them. The two brothers are like competing for the girl. And this first book is very much a setup book, but the other 2 books are just divine. Highly recommend, especially if you like mafia romance. I feel like you'll love this. And next up, I read Drive by Kate Stewart. So I love Kate Stewart. I read the Ravenhood series last year. By far my favorite contemporary romance series. I know I say that in almost every video, but everyone needs to read it at least once. So Drive is a love triangle book, and the next book, or the companion book, Reverse, is about to come out in July. I'm so excited to read it. But yeah, if you like the Ravenhood series, I would definitely check this out. It's just such a good love triangle. Like, I honestly loved both guys in this. I feel like normally with love triangles, I like one guy or the other, or it's very obvious who the author wants the main character to end up with. Not the case in this, so highly, highly recommend. Next up, I read The Thorns Remain by Jennifer Hartman. I had no idea if I liked this book or not while I was reading it. It's following this guy who ends up getting a divorce from his wife after he finds out that his wife's been cheating on him, and then all he wants is revenge on the person that his wife cheated on him with. So, and he doesn't really care who he hurts along the way. And I pretty much hated every single character in this book. However, it was just written so well, and I had so many feelings while reading it. So I definitely really enjoyed it. This is by far my favorite Jennifer Hartman book. And then I read another very popular book, and that is Every Summer After, and this is by Carly Fortune. So this is following these two, girl and guy, who they have a beach house across the street from each other, and they just grow up together. They're like lifelong friends. And then something happens that tears them apart, and then we jump forward 8 years where they're reuniting, and we kind of get to discover like why they stopped talking. And this was fun. This was very cute. It's like the perfect summer read. And then last up, I read No Tomorrow by Carian. I have talked about this book at length on my channel. Like, I have so many videos discussing this book, so I'll keep it very brief. But this is following Piper, who on her lunch break, she sees this guy who's playing guitar. She immediately has like a connection with him, and she finds out he's homeless. That does not stop her from pursuing a relationship with him, and it is their relationship spanning 14 years, which sounds like a long time to follow one couple. However, there are so many ups and downs in this relationship. It's also a rock star romance, and it's just, I love this book. By far, one of my favorite reads of 2022. Definitely, if you have not read this yet, check it out. It's so good. All right, and last up is June. So I actually rated a lot of books 5 stars in June, but only 3 of them were romance. I kind of jumped into fantasy romance for the end of June. So the first one is the Stay With Me series by Nicole Fiorina. So this entire series, I rate 5 stars. This is following Mia, and she is diagnosed as a sociopath. She is just making a lot of really bad decisions, and she has no feelings. So she doesn't care who she hurts. So her family eventually ends up being really sick of this, and they send her to this reformatory college where she meets all of her masters. And he is a guy that just feels too deeply, and he immediately knows he wants a relationship with Mia, and this is their relationship throughout the years at their reformatory college and then after. And I love this so much. This might also end up being one of my favorite reads of 2022. It was just, I wasn't expecting to love it, and then I really did. So definitely check this out if you haven't yet. And next up is The Words by Jade. So I've also talked about this book a lot on my channel. This is a rock star romance. It is super chunky, but I read this in like 2 sittings. We are following Phoenix and Lennon, and Phoenix is this guy that wants to pursue a music career. However, he needs to graduate high school first, and he's failing his classes. So Lennon ends up tutoring him, and Lennon is this girl that is being picked on at school because of her weight. Her father is a composer, and she really just has very low self-confidence, and she's afraid she's not going to live up to her father's expectations. So Phoenix and Lennon ends up tutoring Phoenix, and they end up forming a relationship until Phoenix does something terrible to Lennon, and they stop talking. And then I think it's like 10 years later, or 8 years later, they end up reconnecting and working together. And I love this book so much. It has a lot of body positivity. It has great dyslexia representation, and it's wonderful. So please read this if you haven't yet. It's so good. And then last up, I wasn't sure if I wanted to add this because I haven't finished the series yet, but the Off Balance series by Lucia Franco. So this is age gap, and it's not student teacher, but it's coach teacher. So definitely check trigger warnings. Definitely not going to be for everybody. But this is following our main character, who I believe is 16 or 17 when the book starts. And she ends up going to train under this very well-known and well-renowned coach named Kova. And then Kova and our main character end up pursuing a relationship. So there is a very significant age gap. And also our main character, Kova, or our main love interest, Kova, does have a little bit of authority over the main character, but I never see him use it in a very negative way. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. The first 3 books were amazing. I still have to read the next 3, but highly recommend. All right, guys, those were all my favorite romance reads so far this year. Please let me know down in the comments below what was your favorite read this year. I said this already. I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.